We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this special video celebrating the anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. July 20th, 1969 at 8:17 p.m. Neil Armstrong stepped off the ladder of the LEM onto the surface of the moon. He was joined with Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins was up in the other ship orbiting the moon. I don't remember what it was called. But I kind of remember the original moon landing when it aired back on July of 1969. I was 2 years old at the time, and from what my parents told me, I was pretty much fixated on the TV screen. I was laying on a blanket on the floor, just staring at the TV screen, watching all this stuff. I barely have memories of it. I can't really remember it that well. But it was a very historical moment, and it's really cool that we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. I love space. I love anything to do with space. Growing up, I always wanted to work for NASA. Not as an astronaut, but some other kind of capacity. I took an interest in robotics. I went to college for robotics, and my hope was to get a job like at JPL to make robots to send out into space and stuff. Unfortunately, life got in the way. I couldn't afford to get the education I needed to do that, and I had to settle on the job I have now, which is a good job. I mean, I deal with automation, wire guidance, electric vehicles, stuff like that. So I'm doing something I really like, but my first love was going to be working for NASA at JPL. But anyway, enough of that. I remember back in the early 80s, I think it was in 1980 actually, every summer my parents and I would go down to Florida to visit my aunt. She lived down in Miami. And on this one particular trip, my parents took me to go to the Kennedy Space Center down at Cape Canaveral, Florida, Titusville. What an awesome experience. Of course, it was a year after the 10th anniversary of the moon landing, so it still had a lot of stuff up that was celebrating the anniversary, the 10th anniversary of the moon landing. I got to see one of the original conveyor, the little tractor things that they hold the Saturn V on. I got to see a Saturn V rocket. It's pretty cool. All kinds of neat stuff. Of course, my mom had a hard time keeping track of me because I kept on running around and push buttons on all the displays. So she could usually find me by listening for button pushing and things going off. But in this one hallway, heading to the gift shop, there was a game sitting there that forever changed my outlook on playing space games on computers and home consoles. That was Atari's Lunar Lander. I first saw the Lunar Lander game at the Kennedy Space Center on the way to the gift shop. Loved the game. It was a lot of fun to play. I still like it to this day. I play it on my PS4 and the Atari Flashback collection a lot of the time, or I play it on MAME on my computer. There's a lot of ways to play the original Lunar Lander by Atari. Also did a dedicated video to Lunar Lander some time back. I'll put a link down in the show notes for that. So I'm not going to go into detail about Lunar Lander for the Atari, the arcade version. Just want to mention where I first saw it and how much I really like it, mainly because of that control. I love that throttle control. That's awesome. So, what other games did I play Lunar Lander on? Well, besides the arcade version, I remember my Ballyastra game Astrocade came with a little Bally Basic cartridge and an audio cassette that had these demo programs on it. It's like a 300 baud, kind of like a transfer cable that you would use to put programs into the Bally Astrocade. And one of the games on there was a lunar lantern game. Basically, you had like a little square box that shot flames out one side or the other, and you would land the little box on the ground, on the lunar surface. It was cool. I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. Whew, glasses are falling off. The next console I remember playing a lunar lantern game on was my brother's Apple II computer. He had a lunar lantern game on there called Tranquility Base. This was really close to duplicating the experience of playing the arcade game by Atari. You basically would use the mouse to control your throttle, so you actually control the throttle, the thrust, and use a couple keys to rotate your lander around. It's actually a really good lunar lantern game on the Apple II. It's a lot of fun to play. On my Atari 8-bit computer, back then, I played another game called Lunar Lander by Adventure International. This was a pretty fun lunar lantern game as well. And one of the cool things about this game is once you landed your lander so many times, it would cut to another screen and you see little astronauts walking out on the moon's surface, and then they would put up a flag, and then they would just walk off the side of the screen. That's pretty cool. Very challenging game, especially when you put it in commander mode, and you gotta get that little lander to go around this cavern to make its landing. I have never ever gotten the thing to land on that mode. I've tried many times over the years. I haven't done it yet. As you can see in the video over here, I still haven't done it. And of course, there was a lunar lantern game on my Fairchild Channel F. It came on a cartridge called Galactic Space Wars. It was video card number 23. And it's a fairly decent lunar lantern game too. The basic premise of this game is how quickly can you land the lander in the shortest amount of time. 4 seconds is about my record. It's actually a pretty good lunar lantern game as well. Another one that I used to play a lot, I used to go to Service Merchandise quite a bit. And at Service Merchandise, they had a VIC-20 computer set up. And one of the games they had running on the VIC-20 was Jupiter Lander. Anytime I would go to Service Merchandise with my parents, they would go off shopping. I'd run back to the electronics section, and I'd be at one of 3 different places in there. I'd be at the Intellivision demo kiosk, I'd be at the 2600 demo kiosk, or the Atari Computer demo kiosk, or the VIC-20 or Commodore 64 demo kiosk. And I would play Jupiter Lander. I love Jupiter Lander on the VIC-20. It's a really challenging game. It's a lot of fun to play if you like lunar lantern games. But those are basically the 4 lunar lantern games I remember playing a lot growing up. Now there's been ports of lunar lantern to all different types of consoles. It's all over the place. Especially now, you can play it on almost any kind of system. You can play it on your cell phone. But, I want to make a special video just to celebrate the moon landing that happened today,
July 20th,
1969, which is 50 years ago. Awesome. Buzz, Neil, Michael, you guys rock.
Thanks very much.